Welcome to our podcast today. This is Coach Eric Johnson, the brand.
It's Coach Aaron Thigpen, the source. EJ, what's on the docket today?
Aaron, this comes up all year during the season, off season, games, everything. And the topic today is searching for velocity. What does that mean? How important is it? What does it mean in this environment today that you hear he doesn't throw hard, or he throws hard and I like him, and that's it. It's velocity. This is about velocity. What does that really mean, Aaron? At the end of the day, what does velocity really mean? And why are so many people, parents, players, coaches, everybody, what are they searching for? What does it mean? And how relevant is it today in baseball at all levels? That's what we're going to talk about today, my friend.
All right, velocity. So I guess first thought would be velocity is the easiest thing to see and measure if you don't have the other faculties in determining the quality of a pitcher.
Right.
You don't have to be a former Major League Baseball player or a pitching coach to tell if someone's throwing the ball hard.
Right.
So I think that's the one thing. Two, I think every level of any sport, the game actually gets faster. It gets physically faster and it gets mentally faster. So there is some component of speed, I think, in most sports in terms of the physical and the mental processing. And so I feel from a coaching standpoint, it's easier to take a guy who's faster, or in this case, has a higher velocity, and teach him how to pitch than take a guy who doesn't have any velocity and try and teach him how to pitch. Right. I mean, the baseball graveyard is littered with the arms of guys who could throw super hard but couldn't get over the plate. I mean, look at how many times a major league team has taken a chance and thrown a couple $1 million at a guy who could throw 98 miles an hour,
right,
as a prospect, but can't throw the ball over the plate. And, after a period of time, they give up on the guy or something. I think from a coaching standpoint and a development standpoint, it's easier to take a kid who can already throw hard and then figure out, hey, this is what I'm going to do with him. Maybe he's going to be this type of situation, a closer or middle relief. Maybe only, instead of him having to have 3 quality pitches, maybe we only have to develop 2.
Right.
So I think the pathway to success is a lot shorter for coaches when you have that added benefit of a guy who can throw exceptionally hard, or throw harder than the norm.
Right. Aaron, I'm gonna take it back a little bit, because this is something that you and I talked about, and it's something that's kind of got me thinking a lot lately about velocity. And I think about your pitching program you do at Game Speed, and the pitchers that have walked through your door in your pitching program or your throwing program, but it has nothing to do with the pitching coach. It has everything to do with what you're doing to get their bodies ready to throw the ball harder. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit. I want to go off this track of velocity and talk about, can you train a player to get their body ready to increase velocity? I want to talk about that because that doesn't get talked about. Everybody talks about, hey, I got to go to this pitching coach and I'm going to start throwing harder because I'm going to the pitching coach. And I always think, well, that's great, but what if your body's not prepared to do that over the long haul or the short haul or wherever that case being? That's what I want to talk about, because I think people don't understand the rhyme or reason of getting the body ready to throw velocity, get ready to throw harder. So I want to go down that path a little bit and talk about training the body and getting the body ready. That has nothing to do with a pitching coach initially.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because I've been working with pitchers for 30 years.
Right.
And I definitely am not a pitching coach. I could not tell you how to put your fingers on the ball, throw a slider, a curve, a knuckleball. But,
right.
Little as it's known, I was actually one of the initial guys of a lot of the power throwing that's going on now. 30 years ago, I was working with Rob Bruno, NorCal Baseball.
Right.
And he had sent me a couple guys, Chris Grueller, another kid out of Clayton Valley, and Josh Butler. Chris Grueller went on to be number one, second pick in the draft, or number one pick in the draft. I can't remember.
Yeah, he was in the first round. Yeah.
And Butler was a second round pick. And
yes, he was.
Kid from Clayton Valley, God, his name escapes me, was I think a third round pick. And then I had a kid out of Texas that year. But these were all NorCal kids.
Right.
And Bruno had brought these kids to me and said, hey, Aaron, can you help train these guys? And I said, yeah. And we had no equipment. All we did was we went out to a track. We used a stadium. I had some medicine balls, cones, and I developed a program for them.
Right.
And because of my limited experience in baseball, I knew that there was a parallel between baseball and sprinting.
Right.
Similar muscle groups, same energy system, just different movements. So I trained these guys like sprinters. And, Grueller ended up throwing what was it, 98 miles an hour or something like that?
98, 99. Yes.
Butler was like 95, 96. The other kid from Clayton was around that time. It was the same. And then the other kid from Texas, big kid, he was probably like 94, 95. And so because of that, Bruno and NorCal, which was really well known in the country, people started, I think, asking them what they were doing. And I started to develop a program for these guys. And then, Jerry Weinstein started getting into it. And then the guys over at the pitching center, they started getting into it. But I was developing more or less the physical aspect of it, not the throwing aspect of it.
Right.
So, look, pitching is like sprinting. It's a total body action. So you have to train the body in that aspect. Whereas before, I think a lot of people just focused on the arm.
Right.
To get my arm strong.
Right.
And that's all well and done, but you throw with your body. And pitching is neurological. It's not just muscular, just like sprinting is neurological. And so that's kind of the take that I brought to it. But again, now there's a lot of other derivatives of power throwing throughout the country. But I think we were at the forefront of its development and actually formalizing it as a program. Again, Eppard and Sakani, Weinstein.
Right.
God, I think maybe Tom House might have been involved.
House was in the mix. Okay, I remember Tom House was in the mix too.
And then also Alan Jaeger.
Alan Jaeger was in the mix.
Exactly. And so I guess through a period of time, and all of us working with NorCal guys and collaborating to different extents, that was kind of the birth of power throwing. Now, again, it's taken a lot of different aspects now, derivatives, where you got the weighted balls with the guys. Right. Can't remember the name now. Escapes me. The guys up in Oregon.
In Seattle?
Seattle. Yeah. And so, but I think the main tenet still is, and what I do with my program is I just train the body. I just train the body to be explosive, over and over again, to have that anaerobic capacity, to have the neurological firing. And that's a process that takes a lot of time. And
yes.
Like I said, to parallel what I talked about with pitchers really being
like sprinters?
Oh, like sprinters. It takes about 6 years to develop a sprinter.
Yes.
To a national caliber sprinter, not necessarily world-class caliber sprinter, but national caliber sprinter. And I think it takes about that long to take a pitcher to be what you might say a collegiate caliber,
right,
or prospect caliber pitcher.
Yes.
And people don't have the patience for that, because when most people get into a velocity program, they're like, okay, it's been 3 weeks, let's put the gun on. And there's a whole process that has to happen where you're layering training upon training and, body movement upon body movement. And, all of these things besides making the corrections and getting rid of the poor or the broken body mechanics that the athlete has.
Right.
That's why it takes so long. And I use this term in one of our other podcasts. You want these things to be baked in so that they become automatic, so that you can layer on top of each other. It's not learn it for the moment and then forget it. And so when I think of velocity, you have a term that I like as well. We work slow to be fast. and that's the same thing, I think, when you're developing velocity in a pitcher. The process is slow, the outcome is fast.
Right. I love that. It's as smooth as quick enough,
that's it.
And
smooth and quick enough. I love that.
Smooth as quick enough. And I think a lot of times, and when I ask, as you and I evaluate players together that we share a lot of times, and whether it's a pitcher or an infielder or outfielder, and I go, we need to work on that arm strength. And then I can see, your lights start going off in your head. You're going, I know what we're doing, or I might come to you and say, this guy needs to get a little bit better. Let's start developing this now. So in 3 or 4 years from now, 5 years from now, that arm strength is there. And this leads me down to the next thing is guys can throw hard. And I'm telling all the people out there, people can throw hard, but they need to have pitchability, ability to throw the ball at the plate. And I think that's one thing that you've done in your power throwing is to help the players become more accurate because of the response that you're asking them or efficiency that you're asking them to do a drill. It's just not like you're going, okay, just do the drill. No, you're asking them to be specific. Throw that ball here, or this movement needs to be done precisely. So in your mind, you have that pitchability component built in also, along with velocity. Those two need to go together in order to have a efficient pitcher, that can throw hard and throw the ball over the plate. Like you said, it's great to have somebody throw hard, but what if they're not throwing over the plate 62% of the time? Exactly. 62% of the time is considered above average, and that's the major league number, 62, 63%. And even if you threw at 65%, Aaron, that is considered exceptional. 65% of your pitches or strikes, it's exceptional in this game. And I think if you are out there searching for velocity, understand pitchability, the ability to not only throw it hard, but have other pitches and to master the inside corner, outside corner, high in the zone, that goes a long way. And I think the training that you've done with these pitchers allows them to be more accurate or have that ability or pitch ability to master. So, that's what I think about that, Aaron, with the velocity. I really like the way you go about training the guys, and I love the fact that we can take it not only from a pitcher standpoint, but a position player standpoint too, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't even call my program a power throwing program because I call it a pitcher's conditioning program.
There you go.
Because I feel that as a pitcher gets in the proper condition in all aspects of, range of motion, flexibility, balance, posture, neurologically, all that sort of thing, velocity comes.
Okay.
As a result of all of those things. So I don't necessarily try and sell, hey, this is a power throwing program. I said that's a byproduct of the body being in the right shape and condition, and knowing how to use the body, properly.
Right.
And so I think when you're looking at velocity, now doggone it, I lost my train of thought. That's what happens, man. You get old. But
it's interesting though, Aaron. With velocity, and I hear this all the time with college coaches. I talk to them, and they give me a number, and I always like to think 85 is the start of a conversation. And I tell parents this. I said, listen, kids want to pitch at the next level, velocity 85. We need to, be there. But I also say this: they got to be able to throw the ball over the plate. That's great. You're chasing that, but that's a conversation, and it's going to take some time. And I said this earlier to you in a comment, and it was this. I'd love to see players come in at 11 years old, 12 years old, for you can train their body conditioning wise to maintain some sort of consistency with their throwing velocity. It takes a while, so you just can't come in at 17 and expect you to I got velocity now. I think those are short. That's really a fallacy. You really need to take time. Well, they do, right? So there's stuff you can do to help them, but the gains that they want, like 10 miles per hour in a year, I think that they're searching for something there. I think planning and having a plan, because I've seen you take players that come into you 3 or 4 years into it, and you've really helped them significantly, 7-8 miles per hour. And that was over in a program where they were in it all year with you. It wasn't like they came in an off season. That means they started in the fall, they went through the winter, they went through the spring, and they went through the summer with you to gain that type of increase in velocity, because there is a ebb and flow and rhythm and planning of all this that you've mastered in your training of getting in the body condition to sustain that.
Right. I mean, I always tell people you can get anywhere from 3 to 5 miles an hour per year.
Right.
After that, anything else is gravy. And I've had kids get 7 miles, 8 miles per hour, but that's not normal. That is not normal. And also you got to figure out, where are they coming from? Is this kid totally untrained, or is this kid partially trained, or is this kid training all the time? So there's lots of different, points from where you're starting. And if you haven't done anything, then your gains probably can be pretty substantial, but then they kind of plateau out, instead of that curve being like this, now it's more like this.
Right.
The trajectory. But to go back to the point that I missed, you had mentioned pitchability, and that's again transferring what you're doing in the training into performance on the mound. And there's one correction I have to make with every athlete, from my 8-year-olds to even some of my professional athletes. I always have to remind them of their head position and their vision.
Wow.
Because everyone gets caught up in the training say a med ball slam or med ball throw or a physio ball throw, plyo ball throw. Everyone gets caught up in the throwing, but they forget where their vision is at. It's like, I have to tell guys all the time, why are you looking down at the ground? You don't throw a ball into the ground.
Right.
But they inevitably don't look at their target.
Wow.
And so that's when you get guys who can throw hard, but they can't put the ball on target because they don't learn to do the exercise and create the body's velocities that are going to give them more pitching velocity, and they don't bridge that with the tracking that they need.
Well said right there. Yeah, I mean,
it's like taking a cat and saying, okay, I want to increase your bat speed, and he's just swinging the bat as hard as he can, and he's like looking up here,
right?
You know?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
The posture is not the same. The balance is not the same. There's a level of coordination that's now off, and you're not teaching the tracking, because they've got to be able to take in some information as well as do the activity at the same time.
I love that. That's
probably one of the biggest things I always have to correct everybody on. And it comes back to what we talk about. You know, you can throw a med ball, 50, 60 miles an hour, but if you're throwing it looking down at the ground 60 miles an hour, and then when you have to look on target, you drop to 50, that's probably where you're truly at. But you get guys who do the crow hop and run and gun and all these exercises, and their head is back here as their arm is coming through here. And I'm like, and they got the radar gun on them, and they're like, oh, 95.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
The ball's going way up there.
That's gonna transfer into a strike.
Right. I love that.
But those are the things that a trainer may pick up on, but not a baseball guy, a pitching coach might pick up when they're trying to do these velocity programs, those sorts of things, because everyone gets caught up in the exercises. It's like, well, where's the transition? Where's the bridge? Where's the transition? Where's the bridge? Where's the transition? Where's the bridge? How is this going to transfer? Do you understand what I'm saying? And Absolutely. It's great to get effort out of an athlete. And I'll tell you the dirty little secret of power throwing programs. Power throwing programs tend to work because what they're doing is a lot of them help the kid take those governors off of their body. In other words, they help them tap into really just going all out.
Right.
Benefit to that, and that benefit can be more velocity, because now you get the athlete getting used to pushing himself and going outside of that comfort level, or you're raising that comfort level.
Right.
But after that, where do you go? You can maybe have ride the benefit of that for what, a season? You can't do that every year, right? Because your body's not going to exponentially push that bar level by level by level. Remember, as you get older, the level of improvement goes from double-digit percentages to single-digit percentages.
True.
To points of a percentage.
Yeah.
So you can't expect that to be the only thing that's going to get you there. So you have to have all of these other components: transferability, pitchability, understanding the body, when you're in sync, out of sync, in position, out of position. All those things have to be baked in to the training that you're doing, and they have to be called out so that the athlete is cognizant of those things as they're training.
Well said, my man. I love it. We've exhausted this subject on velocity, and I think it's very precise. concise about how we feel about the ability to throw the ball harder and the ability to have pitchability as you do that. So with that said, that ends our podcast today. Hey, this is Coach EJ, the brand.
And this is Coach Aaron, the source. We'll see you.